Hello everyone and welcome to another CAD video. Today we're going to be making the spinning top from Squidgame. So let's get started. Click the blue create button and we're going to make a new document. I'm going to name it spinning top. Now before I even get started, let's again take a look at the pictures, see what that looks like. Looks like it's a top that has a pointy end and kind of ridges along the angled portion, kind of ridges right there. You can see ridges right here. Something like that. And then a stick coming out the top of it. So shouldn't be too difficult. Let's get that going. First thing, we're going to go on that front plane, make a new sketch, type N. First thing I'm going to do is make these ridges that you can see on the top there. You can see them kind of in that picture right there too. All right, so the way we're going to do that is first thing we're going to draw is just a line right here, like that. Simple. And we're going to dimension that line. And let's start by making that, let's say 30 millimeters. This is going to be the height of our top from this part right here to the big top of the circle. All right. From there, we're going to type D for dimension or click your dimension tool again. And we're going to dimension this angle right here. Let's make that 40 degrees. That's going to change the angle between this side and that side. So from there, now we're going to be able to use linear patterns to make the ridges. Should be a lot easier because what you could do is you could go, here's a ridge, here's a ridge, here's a ridge, over and over and over again. And then you'd have to make sure they're all equal because it's pretty easy to make them not equal or not at right angles to each other. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to Control Z, get rid of all those. And I'm going to show you the easy way to do it. Go to your line tool and you make one line coming out at a right angle or 90 degrees to that first line that we made. And then you make a second one that also goes at a right angle to that second line we made. You can see it's highlighting it orange to say I'm right angle to that. There we go. Escape, D for dimension, and then we're going to dimension these. This one is going to be, let's go 3 millimeters. Yeah, seems about right. And then this one, let's also go 3 millimeters. And then from here, we can really easily pattern it, excuse me, by going to linear pattern and just selecting both of them. There we go. You can see it's patterning them way out here. We don't want that. So you grab this arrow, hold and drag until they're overlapping just a little bit, like that. I'm going to go that much overlapping. There we go. And then we're going to change how many we have. Let's go with 12. Just a bunch of them. I don't know what's going on there. We'll have to see whether it works out, whether it gives me the pattern I'm after here. Yep, we got what we need. Perfect. Now I'm going to make one more line that goes from here, 90 degrees out. And I'm actually not going to finish on this line right here. We're just going to go straight on through it, like that. Actually, that's going to give me a really short step right there. So let's do this a different way. I'm going to get rid of that. And then we'll make a different line that goes from this one to here. And we'll just make sure that that is also at 90 degrees there. And then we'll have about a 30 millimeter long top. We can go a little bit longer if we want to. But this should give us exactly what we need. So if I green check mark here, and then you can see I don't even need to cut these parts off right here. That'll just be kind of a waste of time because you can just go to revolve and select this section here. Click your revolve axis, which is that first line we made. And there we go. You can see we have this part of the top. And if you want to change the angle of the top, you can see that's kind of steep. You can go back. It might take a little bit of work, but you can go back into your sketch and change this angle here. So instead of 40, let's go 45, something like that. And it should still connect. Yep, just like that. And then you'll have a top with a different angle to it. So let's actually stick with that 45. I kind of like that. Now we only have 3 things left to do. First one, cut a hole right here. Obviously, we need this stick coming out the top. Otherwise, this top will not work. So I'm going to, just so it's printable, we're going to print it on that surface with a hole cut in the top. And then we're going to put another stick in that so that we can have our stick coming to the top right there. So I'm going to select that surface, select sketch, type N so I'm looking right at it, and we're going to make a circle. Super simple. 10 millimeters in diameter. And there we go. Now I'm going to extrude that like this and switch directions and change it from add to remove so that I can get rid of that material. You can see I don't want to cut all the way through because then I will be losing that part of the top. So let's go just 15 millimeters and green check mark. And now let's make the stick that goes in that. So we'll make a new part studio, create part studio. And this is going to be super simple. We go on the top plane, type N, so we're looking right at it. Sketch, make another circle, and you'll remember that was 10 millimeters. So we'll make this 10 millimeters. So it's a nice tight press fit. And then we just extrude that. Super simple. And you'll remember it went 15 millimeters into the top. And we actually don't need a ton coming out of the other end. So we're going to go 30 millimeters. So it's 15 and 15. And green check mark. And I just like to add a little chamfer to this because it makes the top work a little bit better. So let's go with a 3 millimeter chamfer. Might be a bit much. Let's go with a 2 millimeter chamfer. I like that. There we go. Now we have the stick that will be coming out of the top of the top. The last thing we need, and this top won't work if you don't do it, is this little point coming out of the bottom. That's because the rope, the way this top works, is the rope has to wrap around that first, and then you can start coiling it around the bottom. If you've seen Squidgame, you know how that works, but we got to add that. So also really, really easy to do. Probably the easiest way to do it is to just extrude this right here. You already have your circle. You can just click extrude, click your circle, and we're just going to extrude that. Let's see what 5 looks like. 5 millimeters. That's probably not quite enough. Let's go 6. Let's go 10. Yeah, we'll go 10, and then you can just chamfer it like that. And you can change the angle of your chamfer, actually. We don't really want it to be 45 degrees here. Let's try 60. Oh, looks like I didn't like that. With a 2 millimeter offset. Let's see what happens with a 1 millimeter offset. That's because it's the wrong direction of angle. So we need this to be a 30 degree angle. There we go. And then let's make that, let's see. We know it was 3 millimeters and 3 millimeters off of our sketch. So we know this is probably a diameter of 6 millimeters. So let's try 3. Let's try 4. 3 probably would have worked well with a 45 degree angle, but I like that. That gives us a nice point to the top. It'll still print quite well. That should work. Now, one last thing to note is that this will be a little bit fragile if we leave this corner right here as a really sharp angle. So we're going to fillet that, and that's going to make it a little bit stronger. And that's all we really need. We can do a 1.5 millimeter fillet. We could probably do a 2 millimeter fillet and be just fine. I'll go with 2 millimeter because the bigger your fillet, the stronger it is. But obviously, you can't make this circle right here, so this diameter, any bigger than this. Like if I tried 6, it's going to change this dimension right here. Now that actually would be stronger, but it's going to be a lot harder to wrap. So go 2 millimeters and call it good. And that's pretty much it. That's how you make a top. If you want to put it all together, you can go into this assembly tab right here and go to insert. And first we'll do the bottom of the top. You can click that. And then next we'll go with the pin that goes into the top and green check mark. And then we can mate them together like this. And we're actually going to flip that around. There we go. And then that's exactly what we're after. So that's actually a little too far in, but we can always adjust that too. Should be able to drag. I guess it's not letting me right now, but I know there's a way to do it. I bet it's cylindrical mate is the way that I would do that. So let's try that. We'll get rid of revolute. And I guess this is already there, so I can move this out kind of to where it should be. And that's kind of what our top's going to look like that. But let's see if cylindrical mate gets us what we're actually after. That. And then looks like I need to pull it all the way out for that. There we go. Now let's try cylindrical mate. There to there. There we go. And that is what your final top is going to look like. And then you can use 550 paracord. It's just a type of paracord. It's about 7 millimeters in diameter. And that'll work really well with this top. So thank you for watching. Let me know when you finish your top and we can get it printed off for you.